Hey guys, long time no see. It's been a while since I have done stuff on this channel. The Yahoo thing happened. It didn't last very long. It was fun. People were sad. The end. I'm not going to make a long update of what's next for Kelsey Moser because frankly I think that would bore you. However, if you want to keep up to date on what I'll be doing next, you can follow me on Twitter. And I'll let you know where you can find my content and stuff like this. So, that said, well, let's just get to the meat of what this video is going to be about, because the bright side of the Yahoo stuff is that I'll be able to do a lot more of my own videos in terms of working on my own ability to create production value and stuff like this. So you'll be seeing more of my independently created stuff. I can swear more. Yay! We have Rift Rivals coming up. And this is going to be a really kind of fun event for people who are big fans of a certain region. I'm not really one of those people, super duper. I mean, I like a lot of different regions, and I like a lot of different teams, and I kind of report on stuff, and I like to get into the thing because it annoys people on Twitter when I say, like, EU is better than NA, and NA is terrible, and I mean, there are all sorts of regional influences and ethics and stuff, but generally speaking, I want good games, I want cool rivalries, I want stuff like this, so for me, Rift Rivals would be exciting if I didn't feel like it's a little bit one-sided on back and forth. Because some of the teams going to represent NA aren't necessarily going to represent NA to the best of their ability at this moment, in terms of like what they're capable of at this moment. Some of the teams that are going to the Asian one are just frankly going to get kind of clobbered, and it's a little, and it's not really a rivalry, so to speak. I think that if there is a rivalry in League of Legends, however, it is Europe versus China. Historically, if you look at the closest regional teams, etc., things like this, it's going to be Europe and China. I think someone did a historical look at terms of like the top placing team on Reddit or something, and it was pretty 50-50 in terms of whether it was a Chinese team or a European team that was the top placing team after Korea. Or China basically had Europe's number for a really long time until they learned how to convert their really lane-focused style into something that was more team play oriented. And then in 2015 you had the matchup between EDG and Fnatic. And since then, a Chinese team has not really been able to beat a European team in a best-of-5. Granted, there haven't really been a lot of them. But before that, a European team never beat a Chinese team in a best-of-5. So I think that interaction is interesting. We've had a lot of 1-1s in group stages and stuff like this. And so I think it's pretty cool to talk about this kind of thing. And I'd like to go into it and say, you know, if there was a theoretical Rift Rivals, create your own international League of Legends tournament, Europe versus China. So this is what I am excited about and what I want to talk about. Okay, that's all well and good, but if I'm going to go through and make videos about a theoretical tournament that does not exist and never will exist, I need to go ahead and get into the specifics of what I'm laying out and how I'm going to do this continuation of Kelsey's international face-off into Kelsey's theoretical Rift rivalry. I have no idea. If you look at some of the format stuff on lollysports.com and how these things are set up, you have the LMS, LPL, LCK one, which have the top 4 teams from spring, and then you have the EU versus NA one, which have the top 3 teams from spring. And since I'm lazy, I mean, I'm limited, and I think the people who follow me in my European content probably don't want to hear me talk about how Misfits can't trade sides for the 6th time. I think we're going to just do the top 3, and that's going to be good. No OMG, no Misfits, we're just going to do EDG, RNGWE, and Fnatic UOL G2. So I've decided who's going, right, to this theoretical Rift rivalry, and now I need to decide how I'm going to play this out and how I'm going to set up the format. Well, I don't really want to do like a theoretical group stage and things like this because I don't think anyone really cares that much about the theoretical group stage, and again, limited. Limitations. So we're going to get to the best of 5 stage, and then in both, I think in the best of 5s, it says that the coaches will decide the order of the teams, so it won't just be the 3rd place team is Fnatic playing against the 3rd place team is BDG. No, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be slightly more complex and nuanced, and I can't really simulate this very well. I'm not going to be like, so hey, Dylan, where's Fnatic rated? Because it's not going to be very good. It's not going to be productive. I mean, a lot of teams are going to just say that our team is the best, or completely ignore me, which totally justified doing. I'm just going to do this like quick and dirty, easy, based on sort of results, and not get into the theoretics of top 3 teams in Europe and China, and things like this going up and down. Just in terms of how these teams have performed within the summer split so far. Of course, this isn't cut and dry because both of these regions have the conference format, and we've only had 1 week of cross-conference in Europe and only 0 weeks of cross-conference in LPL. So let's start with China, because I feel like there's going to be less nitpicking and outcry and whatever else if I start with China. And this is pretty straightforward. I think almost anyone watching will say that RNG has been doing the worst. They had kind of an uptick when they played Yihan this past week against Jingdong, but Jingdong are probably the worst team in the LPL right now. And also, Yihan is not going to Rift Rivalries. They released the roster, and it's going to be Cora1, Let Me, MLXG, Xiaohu, Y4, and me. So, no Yihan, no Spanner in the works there. Just MLXG and his really confusing early game decision making. So I think that it's pretty safe to say that they're the 3rd place team. EDG and WE kind of cut and dry, because EDG historically have kind of countered the way that WE play, and then most recently we had a really strong showing in a best of 5 from WE. Both of these teams have kind of lost to teams that they weren't supposed to lose to, like Dan and Snake. But WE came through at the end this past week and BO3, and it felt kind of convincing to me, because their first game was just like really bunged draft. To be frankly clear, it was pretty poorly done. I mean, Clearlove had a really cool interaction. I'm not going to get into it. But we're going to go RNG, EDG, WE in terms of 3rd to 1st for China. 3rd to 1st for Europe is a little bit more difficult. 3rd place, I think you have to go G2. So far they've lost to both of the other 2 teams, Fnatic and UOL, and if you're just doing results-based stuff, G2 really are not getting into the swing of things. I think that they've got a lot of hang-ups in terms of trading sides or having someone pressure when there's no pressure on the other side of the map. We'll get into this in more detail when we get into their segment. UOL and Fnatic, a little bit more difficult. They won't face each other yet. They've both lost to teams they shouldn't have lost to. Fnatic lost to Rockcat, UOL lost to Splice. I think that the UOL losing to Splice is a little bit more forgivable, considering what Splice have been doing lately, than Fnatic's loss to Rockcat. However, when it comes down to it, I think I would rather think about the theoretical matchup, since it's sort of pinning on a hair, and if I want to do any type of 3-3-2-2-1-1 stuff, I'd rather talk about UOL versus WE, because of the way that these teams are, I don't want to say similar, but I think EDG and Fnatic are slightly more similar, and UOL versus WE are slightly more similar, but no one's really similar to UOL. Let's just throw that out there. Okay, so we've kind of accomplished that. I think that makes sense. How am I going to do this format? Well, I really like the King of the Hill thing. Like, I like the 3rd place team starts against the 3rd place team, and then if the 3rd place team wins, they go on and face the 2nd place team on the other side. But I also would rather talk about all 3 of the teams that are going to show up, so we'll definitely have the King of the Hill format, but I think I'm going to make each video like the 3-3-2-2-1-1 thing that I talked about earlier, and then I'm going to say, okay, yeah, we're talking about 2-2 here, but last time we talked about how Team X beat Team Y, so let's start off by saying whether or not I think that Team X would beat Team Z. And so I think that that's a good mix. It keeps everyone happy, lets me talk about like some matchups that I want to talk about that I might not get to talk about otherwise, and the King of the Hill format is just like really cool. So Anyway, this has been the introduction. Sorry, it's a bit long. We'll talk about G2 versus Royal. I have this video basically almost done, so it'll either be out today, later, depending on how much difficulty I have editing it, or it'll be out tomorrow. I hope people are somewhat excited about this. Thanks. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and talk soon.